you, Chris from Fairshares.
Thank you. So the Chance to Chat project developed really through discussions with a carer who used to meet her mum from a care home, and she would go out for coffees with her, and then she would send a postcard back to her mum at the care home, so that when she met, and then when she went to meet her mum, they had something they could talk about, and also her mum had something lovely in the post as well. So that was Sue Chard, who works who lives in Stonehouse and who's involved with dementia care. So that was the initial sort of inspiration for the Chance to Chat project, and now we've developed it and tried to put it forward as a way of an approach to care that recognises that getting to know someone and finding out about their life and finding out about what they like, what they don't like, the important parts of their life and so on, is a really important part of offering a high quality care to improve person's well-being and improving really the type of care that we can offer. And Chance to Chat is a part of an approach to care, I think, which puts when we talk about person-centered care, but also it's about what do we really mean by person-centered care, and how do we make it personal, how do we make it human? So conversations with someone are stimulating memories and life stories, and that's really what the whole project is about. And then what you do with those life stories and how you can use them to really support someone and get to know someone better. There's a selection of postcards, we can. They're used in all kinds of different ways, and we've developed postcards for different communities, Black and Asian community. Also, we've developed postcards for the Forest of Dean as well, which involved interviews with people from the forest about their lives, and then finding images that related to those stories. This image, it sparks a lot of stories. A lot of people, they look at this, they remember their school days. People often remember about milk as well at school, and different stories that can spark. And we can learn a lot as well from someone, and also to encourage someone to say a little bit more about it. Not just, oh yes, we used to drink milk or whatever at school, but what did that link to friendships? Did that have any what else happened at school? What was the impact of school and so on, and a lot of childhood memories. So it's to encourage someone to speak, to really delve further into somebody's life and to find out more about them. I think this image sparks. It's one of the most popular images we have, to be honest. But it might, sometimes when you look at that, it might not even be the milk. Sometimes it might be the boy's tie. I think he's wearing short trousers as well. There might be all other kinds of things. That it might be the railings behind it. That's the other thing, or his haircut. That's the other thing, is that it can be all kinds of parts of the image that people pick up on. It's that for one family where somebody had this image, it meant that it changed the relationship in their family, because basically her father and her husband had a very difficult relationship with each other. But through this image, they realised that they had a common interest, actually, sort of milk. The father used to be a dairy farmer, and the husband was a milk monitor at school, and that sort of helped to develop a friendship, believe it or not, where they could then enjoy their children together and that kind of thing, which made a really big difference to the family. So you never know where the images are going to take you, and I think that's the other thing, is to keep things as open as possible, to see where things lead, and that you'll get a lot more out of the images by doing it in that way. And again, it's quite similar, that childhood memory, childhood games, friendships, and so on. and we have had instances as well where you know, you can write the memory on the postcard as well, and you can send that to somebody. If you might need to try and find someone's address or someone, but it could be someone who is you know, was important to that person's life, and you might be able to you know, to even re-establish or make contact with somebody that you hadn't, that person hadn't had contact for years. Might have been a childhood friend, might have been a relative, and so on. And that's something as well. It's that you know, that rebuilding possibility of rebuilding relationships as well. And I think that helps all people. It helps carers, it helps others, and particularly at some point, people are going to have to deal with grief as well. And I think it can help in that way as well, that if you've celebrated somebody's life and been able to celebrate their life, and for them to feel their life was worth something, that can help as well when that, you know, for when that person dies. So again, this is a very popular image, and many people have been, you know, for day trips or holidays to Weston, and the pier is probably an iconic, although this one I think is the one that's been burned down and rebuilt. So the pier is an iconic image, and it shows that caring is more than just you know, you know, that we make sure that someone has the basics of life, you know, of their food and shelter and so on. But actually, this is about I feel the important things of life: friendships, love, you know, value, how we feel about ourselves and how other people feel about us. All those things I think are really important, and we can, you know, I think bringing friends and family and carers together so that we can work together to offer a good quality of care. If we can work with all those people involved with that person's life, or as many as possible, that gives us a sort of richer and deeper understanding of what's gone on. And again, you know, supporting carers is a very important part of personalized and person-centered work, because the more able that person is to offer support and care to the person living with dementia, well, the better quality of care they'll get. And this is about the idea that I suppose that memories, I suppose, a bit like our brain's a bit like a computer, isn't it? And the more embedded memories are and hardwired into our brains, the longer that they stay with us, really. And so you have, you know, particularly some memories we find are really embedded in us: childhood memories, school life, holidays with parents, games, teenage love, marriage, children, and work life. There's all kinds of different, you know, these are things that can be you know, really hardwired, and we'll find that there's particular times in our lives that that really stay with us, and in particular, you know, it's those early memories that are absolutely you know, stay with us. And that's really important, I think, that we concentrate on what someone feels comfortable talking about, comfortable to remember, rather than trying to focus on things that people struggle to talk about or struggle to remember, because then that just creates anxiety for the person, and anxiety for those asking the questions as well, actually. And this image here, it came from stories from the Forest of Dean, and the stories actually this came from was from children swimming in the water tower at Norchard Crossing, but and people and their experiences of that, and how you do things which are, you know, quite exciting when you're children, maybe a bit naughty as well, but also it's other things that come out of this. It's a very important sort of transport hub, I think. Buses and trains meet at that crossing as well, so it's a well-known crossing, and again, memories sort of flood in when people see that, think about it. And again, I think that these kind of things that are important, and remembering those deeper relationships that existed, finding out more about someone's life and their relationships and so on. Maybe there are ways then of trying to maintain those relationships, because you can become isolated. You know, people can become quite isolated through dementia, and so anything that can help to keep those connections together, so that people feel confident about what they might better go and talk with someone about, that they can sit there and talk about certain things, old days or whatever. And again, these postcards can help in that, can help get those first stories and memories going again. And anything that we can do to show that, yes, that person might be changing, maybe, and things will change in the future, but actually you can still sustain deep and meaningful relationships and loving relationships. So as I said, knowing about, you know, what they like, what they don't like, family connections and so on, all make a real difference and can really affect somebody, people's anxiety levels. There was one person I remember who used to get very distressed on when we also do gentle park walks, doing our walks. And as I said, the postcards are an approach to of how we approach care, how we approach things, so that knowing about somebody is important. And we managed to find out that she loved walking, and she loved walking with her son and her dog. And when she was in a situation where she started to get anxious, and that could happen if she was in a crowd of people and she didn't know what was going on, and that's difficult if we think about what it must be like for someone who is getting maybe more confused and isn't always sure what people are talking about around them, not sure maybe exactly where they are or what's going on around them. But if you can make a connection with something that is reassuring and comforting, then that can change how they feel. They can feel more relaxed. They can feel, the anxiety levels can drop. And so with this woman, if you talked about going for a walk and imagining being on the hills with her and her son, with her dog, she just started talking about that, and she would forget her anxiety would drift away, really. And this again, holidays are very important in people's lives, and they bring back all kinds of memories. So that's there's all kinds of memories that you can share, and you can encourage families to share. That's the bit that we don't just stick with us discussing with somebody living with dementia, but we try to reach out to other carers and reach out to family members, and encourage them to talk about, those memories. And also with people living, if you are living in a care home, to realize that you can still have links. That person might have played an important role, into something like that, where they might have worked, might have been an important workplace. They might have achieved something. We've all achieved something. That's the important thing. Actually, every single one of us has achieved things that we can celebrate. So this week we had a discussion. This is an important shop in the Forest of Dean. It's Raymond's, which is in Colford, isn't it? It's Colford, and it's been there for years and years and years. Everyone knows it, and there are so many stories linked to Raymond's. So again, if you want to develop your own postcards, you can. You can talk to people and find out what are the important key stories, if you want, of your community and of a person's life, and try and identify them. If you want to then produce more postcards or more images that can stimulate conversation. Yeah, so how do we achieve these aims of what we're trying to do? Okay. So how can we actually use the postcards? And they can be used in all kinds of ways. I've talked about how in care homes they can be used, importance of that. We also have postcards that link to different communities. to people from a Polish background, people from a Caribbean background, people from a South Asian background, Chinese background. And so that they can also be important, and you can access them. You can get those packs through Kay Patel at the Dementia and Education training team, or through myself at Fairshares. We can send packs to you. Memory groups as well. I went to memory groups in the forest. I've been to memory groups all over the county, and it's a great way of people talking about their lives, and for people to understand some of people's individual lives and relationships and so on, but so also some of the history of that region, which can be important for people who've grown up there, but maybe people who've moved to the area, and they find out more about the region as well. And also, I think, like in cafes, we've put them in cafes, in garden centres, libraries, museums, all over the place, where people can just pick them up and can then chat away to somebody they're sitting to. And it shows that then these postcards, have an impact on all kinds of people, not just those living with dementia. We all love chatting about our lives, let's be honest. Staff training, which is, I suppose, linked to what we're doing today as well. And I think that idea of understanding that everyone that we're working with, if we understand their life more and understand what they've been through, that helps us, I think, to understand maybe how someone is, and to have more of a caring approach and an open mind. I think that's the other thing, is to keep our minds open. An image that some of us of a certain age will definitely remember. And of course, all these images, they're aimed at people who are, over, let's put it this way, over 50, but really over 60, over 70, we're looking at as well, and growing up. So the images that you'd have grown up with. Yes, and also we'd like the postcards to be used in the long term. So that means to develop them as I suppose what I've been saying is that they can be used as reminiscence tools. That you can just use them as a reminiscence, and people can talk about their stories. But if you can maybe then take things a little bit further, write the stories on the back of the postcard, send them to someone that might appreciate them, like I say, friends, family, and it shows, that you can. These stories are what link us together. So anything that can spark stories brings us together, and I think anything then that we can do to link up with people, that can help to improve, just how we get on with each other and our relationships with each other. We will need to sort of update postcards as well, and to bring in new postcards as well. And so, if you work with different people to find out stories, you can use that to maybe then work out different images that might work as postcards. You can find out more. You can use this approach where you're not just working with the person, I said, living with dementia, but their carers and family and so on. And it helps to really see them as a whole human being, and how important that love and relationship is, in our lives, and how important, and that's important, throughout our lives, really. That will mean, if we do it right, that means that somebody, will feel happier and will feel more loved themselves as well. And then some of the barriers and difficulties. Well, the most obvious one, obviously, is we're still going through a pandemic, which has had a huge impact on all our lives. And if ever we needed something to remind us that human relationships are so important to how we feel about our lives and about ourselves, then that's done it, hasn't it? Really, the missing of human contact and human relationships has been one of the most difficult things, I think, about the whole pandemic. Obviously, other things like staffing ratios, changes of staff, changes of routines, all those things are difficult. If you've built up a relationship with a particular staff, it tends to be, there'll be, one staff member usually is the key person that you have in a workplace that you work with. If they leave, it does change things, and you then have to sort of try and rebuild relationships and so on. Attitudes to dementia amongst family and friends and carers. People can be quite scared. They can be quite frightened of dementia and worried about it, and can just think of the worst that's going to happen. I think we do that quite often with diseases. We immediately go to what the worst thing that can happen, and anything that can help us to support people, to show that you can rebuild different types of relationships, even when dementia is developed. It has quite advanced. Really, you can still form relationships. You can still keep love there, and develop the project. As I said, it'd be lovely if new postcards, through chat and stories, that you think, oh God, there's images here that could really work as new postcards. And all I'd say is, try to keep something clear. You want a clear image. You don't want too much in the image. You want to be, it needs to focus on something that is clear and obvious in a way, really. So we need funding as well. It's evidence of how these postcards and the approach to work has changed something, has changed someone's life. So anything that can do that, then that's that means we can access the funding that we need as well. And then people can take up their own, they can have their own ideas. So that's this post snap and things where you might be going out and you take a photograph on your phone, and then you can use that and you can send it to PostSnap or to different websites, and then they can send that postcard to somebody. So maybe if you're a carer, you might be out somewhere. You take a photograph of the person doing something, and you can send it to their family. They can send it to their family through the website, which is a lovely thing. Then it's connecting the family then to what's happening, say, in a care setting. So they feel more connected, and this is it's the Dilk Hospital in the Forest of Dean, which again has been a key place, for many people. Might have been through the Dilk, so there'll be many stories that'll be linked to the Dilk, and every area will probably have their key hospitals. So that was why that image is there. So I hope that's been useful, and will be something that will mean that we'll continue these conversations and continue the postcards, and that I'd love it actually if I came back to see a whole new set of postcards that people have developed based on their own stories. That would be fantastic, really. So there we go.